Hi everyone, this is Norman Kochnick here, for Eyes on Cricket with Norman Kochnick. I'm here hoping to have some great guests today, depending on their availability. We've got Simon Willis hopefully will come at some stage. We've got David Graveney coming a little bit later. And we've got hopefully Chris Vernon and perhaps Richard there as well as Munchie and a few others. And just wait and see whether people turn up. It's obviously a time zone that's we were going to talk heavily about England cricket. There's obviously a number of changes that have occurred, namely the captaincy, the coaching staff, the CEO, or general manager terminology, the selection side of things, as well as now the white ball coach too. We're hearing Matthew Mott, who has been coaching the Australian women's side to great levels of success. I think they broke a record as to the amount of matches they've won in a row. So I'm assuming that'll be a good move, although we'll wait and see whether that's actually going to happen. We're not guaranteed at all that is the case, but there's a lot of words, food for thought that will happen. The reality is that it's a huge monumental change. And I was at an event on Monday. It was called Eid al-Fitr, Eid Mubarak, held at the Sydney Cricket Ground. It was a celebration of the SCG as well as Eid Mubarak, Eid al-Fitr, and they had a number of guests. They had Mike Coward, the famous journalist there, who was asking questions of some of the most famous players that you can imagine, such as Brett Lee, Wakar Younis, we had Stuart McGill in the crowd. We even had Sonny Bill Williams. Sonny Bill Williams was there. The famous New Zealand All Black was also there. It was very much a Muslim festival celebration, the love of cricket. Had a number of dignitaries there as well. But in particular, Harry Solomon, who owns Kingsgrove Sports here in Sydney. It was quite a fair degree of coverage of people put on by Kamal Khan, good friend of mine. He's someone who's done a great job to have that event come together in 10 days' time, which was amazing. So at that particular night, which is only last night, we had a discussion with Brett Lee and Wakar Younis with Mike Hart asking questions, and Brendan McCullum came up, of course, the new England coach, as in the Test coach, as opposed to the short format. And the question was around his suitability as coach. Now, he'll change the fabric of the team, obviously, him being in New Zealand, obviously also the New Zealander born, although Englishman, Ben Stokes, and they're both very fighting-spirited type guys. They'll play to the end, take risks, and I'm sure that it'll be a monumental event. Have those two at the helm of England, both Ben Stokes as captain and Brendan McCullum as coach. Obviously, they have a new CEO, as in Rob Key, who seems to put a bit of a broom through the place himself and has some very innovative ideas. He wants the best team on the park, and that'll probably include the likes of Anderson Broad. He might even see Jason Roy or a whole range of players come back into the fold who were not normally there, who are more aggressive. Now Manu John's there, and he's mentioning. So we lost Shane Warne, Andrew Simons, and Rutherford. We also lost Rod Marsh, Dean Jones not that long ago. We lost Alan Davidson, Peter Philpott, Ashley Mallett, some great players, and amongst those, it hasn't been a good year. Losing Andrew Simons was quite a shock. 46, Warne 52, Rutherford, I'm not sure of his age. Yeah, Manu John's right. It's been a pretty tragic type of year. But we are waiting on our guests. David Graveney has promised, and all great to see his insights, being a former England selector for many a year. David Graveney. Simon Willis has had a lot to do with the England makeup and would be of great interest to talk to. Well, these people may not be available. I'm not sure they're meant to be coming, but they might be running a little bit late. And you've got people like Chris Vernon. Epic win by Delhi Capitals. You're right. Delhi Capitals won over the Punjab Kings. Basically has seen Punjab Kings go, I think, from the final series now. It really is obviously Gujarat and Gujarat Titans. You've got the Lucknow Super Giants, and of course Rajasthan Royals. In fact, Rajasthan Royals are now second. So that's 3 of the top 4 are pretty well settled. You can forget about Mumbai. You can forget about Chennai. You can forget about Kolkata. You can probably now forget about Punjab Kings as well. And Sunrise Hyderabad. They're all gone, I would say. Only leaving Delhi Capitals and Bangalore, Royal Challengers Bangalore being in the mix. Big thing, all legends are dead and outside, not in Australia. What do you mean by that, Himanshu? Do you mean they died outside of Australia? Well, Shane Warne died in Thailand, you're right. But Andrew Simons died in Australia, in Queensland, North Queensland, in Townsville. So, Rod Marsh died he was in Queensland as well at the time. Yeah, so I'm not sure what you're talking about there. Yeah, so the England squad, and we'll talk more when the guests come about the whole breakdown of England cricket. Now, will their fabric change? We're going to Wakar Yunus based comments. He's a bit tough to say how it actually will go. He's claiming that he doesn't know whether it necessarily is a good thing. Nor is Brett Lee sold on the idea or other. But with Ben Stokes and McCullum, you'll certainly see fireworks. Ben Stokes has done a great job in the format that he's played. The interesting other aspect of not just the Test team is also the white ball cricket or short form of cricket. They are looking at taking on Matthew Mott, which I'm sure most people haven't heard of him. He didn't play for Australia as such. I don't think he even played for. Did he play for New South Wales? I can't remember what state he played for. He was a reasonable cricketer, but he's obviously coaching ability certainly is up there, and the Australian women's team he's done particularly well. He's seen them be basically world champions through and through, and that's attributable a lot to him. And I'm sure they think very highly of him, and his credentials are very, very high. So he deserves an opportunity. Perhaps he does. Yet to be seen, truly tested in the so-called. Oh, have we got another message here? Oh my God, Tom Harrison is to step down as the ECB Chief Executive Officer. Rob Key is in fact the. So Claire Connor's currently managing director, and she's agreed to become the CEO when Harrison leaves until permanent successor is approved. So that really is a lot of change. My heavens. Martin Darlow, interim ECB chair, said it's quite a few. It's quite a. So that's another change. Lost Ashley Giles as managing director or in that role. Tom Harrison now is going to step down as CEO. You got Robert Key coming in. It's just an endless array of. In fact, the whole lot's been. I mean, let's just go through it just quickly. We've lost now the CEO, the managing director, Ashley Giles, Tom Harrison. We've lost Chris Silverwood as coach and selector. We've lost also the captain, Joe Root. We've lost the short form coach as well, being Silverwood covering both. Then you have a numerous amount of changes as well. They had Graham Thorpe, who was obviously not well. He's also stepped down. So they've had a complete clean out of every aspect of the whole thing. It's staggering. It really is staggering. It's a complete clean out. I mean, things aren't going well with them. I'm not going to deny that. Things are certainly not going well for them, but you wouldn't think a complete and entire breakdown would happen like that. So it's just going to be an interesting little phase of time, I think. Yeah, it's going to be some. So Himanshu said, my playing 11 for England, the first testing is New Zealand. But what is it, Himanshu? Tell us. New Zealand's going to certainly test them. I'll tell you that much. So Tom, they're not saying why. So Todd stepped down after more than this. So he basically has been in the position for 7 years as a CEO, and he's leaving in June, which is only around the corner. Oh, I just can't believe it. And, Claire Connor, now she was the head of the MCC. or at least a year stint, as they put it. So she's a. It seems to be a real Harrison's move. I mean, at least he's going on his own 2 feet. He's not being pushed or anything. But is he being pushed? That's the question. I mean, you'd have to wonder whether there's any pushing going on, but it's just really just seems to me to be a complete nutter. You'd have to think there's an element of push going on there. So the notes to the editors: the ECB board has appointed executive search firm Spencer Stewart to lead the search for new chief executive. Okay, it's quite expensive. It's quite a little what's the word for it? It's quite dramatic, actually. You have to think of the amount of clean out that's gone on. Now, Himanshu Rahal is supposed to be telling us he's 11 for the. I think you'll see an element of change about them for sure. Ben Stokes will certainly provide a bit of a Jason Roy or players of that caliber might come back into contention. You'd have to wonder. And there's a lot of players they can pick from, and they may. It's a mental attitude more than anything else. When they had the changes under previous leaders, they had quite a few changes. It's a mental shift that's the major issue that I think that really needs to be undertaken here. And quite frankly, that's what's probably going to happen. I reckon we'll see, not so much Atherton, but there's been a lot of good things that have happened too with English cricket. I can't say it's all been bad. To be honest with you, I don't think they've necessarily been that bad. I mean, Joe Root has been an outstanding player in his time, and not all that bad at captain. I don't see that as a failure at all. So Himanshu Rahal, you're there telling me you're playing 11 for England. I think that Anderson and Broad are certainly going to figure in the mix. For sure. Some of the short form players will come back in. Who am I thinking of? It's not. I'm not thinking of Ashwin Hartik. So let's just go through. We've lost. I'm going to type this up in the commentary. Ashley Giles. Gone. Ashley Giles gone. You've got Tom Harrison leaving. You've got obviously Chris Silverwood, who's now firming up to be part of the Sri Lankan setup. It's got quite a few. Graham Thorpe, of course, he's had health issues as well, which is not. Yeah, it just seems. You'll notice in my commentary left an illness. So make up Ashley Giles, Tom Harrison, Chris Silverwood, Graham Thorpe left for illness, and then of course Joe Root. No longer captain, but he will play, of course. There's not much left, is there? So, but in their place. Ashwin said, what format do I enjoy cricket watching? I like Test cricket, I'm afraid. Why England didn't prefer Justin Langer as the Test coach instead of Brendan McCullum is more T20. Well, that's true. As Robert, I would agree. I would have thought that he would have been. In comes new CEO and MD Rob Key. And I'm not sure they've got an actual chairman selectors or not. Then you have in comes McCullum and Stokes and maybe Mott. I'm not sure. I don't know. Going from a women's team to men's team, is that the solution? I don't know. Interesting to see where that'll be a combination. So again, Ashley Giles gone. Tom Harrison about to go. Chris Silverwood, Graham Thorpe, Joe Root, all gone. In their places, as I said earlier, McCullum and Stokes, and maybe Matthew Mott with Rob Key, and then another, or short term will be selected. It just seems to me that Claire Connor, it just seems to be too much going on there. It's just way too much. You can't. I mean, you can have a complete slab of a change. Yeah, you can. You can certainly have a complete change, but is it really the way to go? I don't know. Let's see whether we'll get our other guests on soon. I'm sure we will. So NRL, MD, RMS has sold. We've got real estate.com, Wix. Not a lot. I mean, well, Chris Silverwood's landed the job with Sri Lanka, which is impressive, but he's not there yet. Of course, Sri Lanka playing Bangladesh as we speak in Bangladesh, and good old Angela Matthews got 199. Incredible, doing very well. Well over 6,000 test runs. A very strong, person in Sri Lanka's cricket history. I want Mount Catherine and National to become a SUG and they can revolutionise international. Which phone do I use? I'm using actually an iPad today. What is Steph Smith doing? Well, he's meant to be playing cricket, isn't he? But he's not. My thoughts on the T20 format? No, it's too short for me. It's not my go. Not a T10 format fan. I mean, novelty value also got this ultimate cricket challenge, which is going on. It's in a cage. Look, they're novel. They have relevance there for some audiences, but the Test cricket, even a fanatic like I am at heart, I don't see much point in that. When I was just a little. It's such a incredible. Your thoughts on okay? I don't know if there's anything to be said which is positive about the England move. I think there's Tom Harrison. Well, it doesn't look like there's much left, is there? Is T20 killing Test cricket? It's trying its level best to do so, yes, but it hasn't succeeded. So, no, I don't think there's an issue there. Really, I think they could well complement each other. Really, I think the 50 over format's one which has more of an issue to me. Why? Because the 50 over format is a little bit too long, to say the least, and tends to I don't know, drag on a bit. Even though Test cricket, you might think is the ultimate dragger. I don't know. I think that Test cricket's got an incredible solution to it. The way that Australia played Pakistan in Pakistan was great. What about Oliver Davies? Why should he not get a chance to play? This player reminds me how much. Oh, it's a bit early. I think. Cameron's performance is getting poor and poor. Well, he's still got a lot of talent. Don't worry. Is Marco Jensen a better left arm seamer than Daniel Sams? At the moment, he's certainly on the way up. Certainly, but Daniel Sams is more of an all-rounder. Perhaps best way to describe it. I think probably Marco Jensen is a slightly better bowler, yes. Yeah, so we'll see if David Graven and the like come. Hoping they do. There's so much to talk about in English cricket. It's just so enthralling that so many players could be out. Not players, but so many selectors, and so many coaches, and so many even players, you would argue, are not in there. It's just such a different world. So I put that video together. Actually, it's got a fair few views. Showed you some of the inside the SCG, which was certainly impressive. Yeah, well, Rob Key, quite a good commentator. Seems to have his head screwed on properly. Seems to be rather well liked. Played very well for his county and also played some good matches for his country. Seems to have credibility. Seems to be well liked. Good on him. Ben Stokes is the only leader that's really there for England at the moment. So that was a good choice. McCullum, I would have expected him to be selected for the short format as in T20 or ODI. The fact that he's Test cricket, as in coach for the Test cricket side of England, bit of a surprise, but maybe that's a bit of a tonic for the whole squad. Be interesting to see what happens. Well, he's got a 5-year tenure. Of course, Andrew McDonald for Australia, who's he has played for Australia. It wasn't exactly the most dramatic player of all, but wasn't a bad player, that's for sure. Will there be a banter corner tomorrow? Yes, there will be. Yes, there certainly will be. We'll have, I think George Pasaris is a no-show, but we've got Harry, we've got Michael, and we've got Giuseppe, which will have still 4 of the 5 there for sure. BBL needs to give a chance to dangerous bowlers because in BBL the bowler has not great what my best like Philippe McDermott makes runs easily. Yeah, BBL is a complete shake-up if you ask me. I don't think there's much right about the BBL at all at this point in time. How else do I do this? Nothing. Nothing on personal. Okay. So Andrew Simons, remember, that was quite a sad move. And he had a lot to do with England. He played a lot of cricket in England. He left a little mark on English cricket. And Alan Mullally, who I've spoken to earlier today or yesterday, he talked about, wasn't a fan of Andrew Simons as a person. That's fair enough. Most people were, though. He was quite an incredible bloke, apparently. I didn't know him that well. I met him once or twice. I spoke to him on the phone once. We tried to organise some stuff for an interview. It didn't obviously happen now, did it? Yeah, rest in peace, Andrew Simons. I must say that was quite a serious, very serious. Was he drinking? Is the question some people have been asking. I'd hate to speculate for that one. That's not for me. How did I meet Andrew Simons? Well, through the connection of people that I have interviewed, they all knew him, and they got hold of me. It was through it was his wife that we first met him. I've seen him in a few interviewing panels back in the day, but he was somewhat very much against the media. Well, not against it, or shied away from it. Sports people wants to know Meredith versus Sam. Who should have picked for the T20? I'd pick Sam's over Meredith. I think Meredith has not really performed well, and I know he's still young, but something's lacking there. I don't know what it is, but I'm not impressed by him. It's me. All right, so not sure whether these guests are going to come. Can't make them come. If they're busy, I have to respect that. In fact, David did actually post that he would be late. He must have come. He knows all these players all too well. I don't know. Let's have a look here. So Mitchell Masters is the most improved player in recent times. Yes, he certainly has got his act together in the short format. Test format, not quite there yet. So Sunrisers' playoff chances will slip away if they don't win against Mumbai. I think the Sunrisers Hyderabad's chances to playoffs have already disappeared. So I don't know. Well, Sunrisers have lost a truckload in a row. They won quite a few in a row, but they also lost quite a few in a row. It's pretty sad stuff. It's almost a you can't even really looking at the sides for tonight. They've got Ishan Kishan, who's underperformed for his multi-million fee. Robert Sharma. Tilak Varma's going in another throw. Tristan Stubbs. Okay. Tim David. Daniel Sams. Heritic Shokin. Ramandeep Singh, Jamprit Bumrah, Riley Meredith, Gulmakateka Singh. It's a pretty good mix, Mumbai side, to be honest. No Pollard as well. Abhishek Sharma for Iceland with Williamson, Tripathi, Andy Markham, Puran, Washington Sundar, Shashank Singh or Glenn Phillips, Marco Jensen, Kartik Chayagi, Bhuvaneshwar Kumar, Ulran Malik, and Natarajan. Bowling attack for Sunrise has always been strong, with the batting it hasn't been. I mean, yeah, there's a lot lacking there, so a bit of a lackluster game all round, to be really honest with you. I can't get too excited about it, to be honest. We really need a bit of a break from some of the antics that have been going on with the IPL, and it's too long, in my opinion. What do you guys think? Do you think it's too long? I think if you're playing some 70 matches, it needs to be a lot more double headers and a lot more pressure on the game, a lot more sort of intensity. I know Test cricket is 5 days, but IPL is 2 months. That's too long. And the likely size, Mumbai side's almost unrecognisable, with no Pollard. Quite a few players that are in the side. I mean, Robert Sharma, we all know. Tilak Varma, not too much aware of his ability as a player. Might be the making of some players, but yeah, this game's lacklustre, to say the least. Sunrise, even if they win, are really unlikely to be going any further. Mumbai, we know, are already out. They're out big time. They're very much out. Very, very, very lacklustre. Some of these games you have to wonder whether they're worth playing. I think so. But Rohit Sharma's been overwhelmingly, what I would say, quiet this summer. And is it a matter of money or what is it? I don't know. Meredith made a big case for the T20 World Cup this year. Well, I don't think so. Why would you say that? What's the big case? I can't think of any big case. I think he's far from reputable at this point in time. Looks like Tuesday's not much of a day for the situation. I just wanted to see if anyone's just going to enjoy. Let me just comment there. Yes. Which player has impressed you in the IPL? This IPL? Oh, Josh Butler. Even though he's a pretty well-known player, he was fantastic. Some of the Indian youngsters that are floating around, especially bowling, Marco Jensen, another Rajan, certainly played very well. Umar Malik, certainly be in the mix for people who have impressed me, for sure. No doubt about that there. He's been very impressive. In his 150 clicks, could see him make his way into the side there for the World Cup. You never know. Josh Butler and David. Well, Josh Butler, I'd say that he's tailed off a bit. David Warner's also been a little bit quiet in the last few matches, but they're still both hugely successful in this tournament. David Warner's move from Sunrise Hyderabad seems to be, well, was he pushed? I think he was. See whether that actually does. Well, that has to justifiably say that he's worthy of the position that he's in. He's been able to cement his place back in the squad. It's good. Hawkins, got a number of rugby league players that are coming back. You got Dean Hawkins, Hamo Silly. He's also yeah, certainly. Who else is missing there? Why is this Trent Peoples getting a Gazy? Get in agreement. Yes. Okay. Mitch Marshall, Cameron, who was the hardest hitter? Well, Mitch Marsh, there's certainly an element of his hitting being a bit harder than Cameron Green, but Cameron Green's overall performance and his age shows his future's pretty much, there, and that there or thereabouts as being a lot being like. So they're going to go for Cameron Green over Mitch Marsh in terms of Test cricket. Maybe not for the short format. Maybe it will be more of a push for Mitch Marsh in the meantime. We'll wait and see whether that transpires. I'd say it will. Mitch Marsh will get a bit of a Guernsey in the T20 squad over and above Cameron Green. Cameron Green played quite capably in Pakistan. What is Chris Green doing? He was season. Yeah, I think he's playing still state cricket here in Australia, but he's maybe on the circuit for some of the lesser tournaments like the CPL, the Caribbean Premier League. But yeah, he was a good player. Is a good player. Was or is. So Robert Key has been tasked with leading a change in English cricket. And we're talking there specifically about, again, let's just go through it. One of the topics of the day, we know Ben Stokes is in for Joe Root. Brendan McCullum's in for Chris Silverwood. We know that Graham Thorpe's gone. He left, but he's also an illness, which is by the way now. We're losing both lost Ashley Giles and Tom Harrison, with Rob Key coming in place. I think Andrew Strauss is still floating around there somewhere too. So yeah, that's pretty decimating. A bit like Australia's death toll too, which has been pretty horrific with, again, Andrew Simons, Shane Warne, Rod Marsh, Dean Jones, Alan Davison, Peter Philpott, Ashley Mellon. The list goes on. Who was the most popular cricketer in Australia? Well, certainly isn't Warner and Smith. They're a bit on the nose for us. You would argue probably Pat Cummins would be. Be fair to surmise that Pat Cummins would be as close as you can get to someone who's the most popular cricketer in Australia at the moment. Batting wise, Usman Khawaja must be up there. He's done fantastically well. It's a great testament to the game. It would have been nice to have him at this event we had on Monday night, to have his presence there. It would have been very nice. I'm guessing they approached him. Didn't come. Stu McGill did, so that was good. He's a lovely boy. Yes. Is AFL going on now? Do you follow AFL? Well, Aussie rules, as I would call it. Not as big a fan as I used to be. I was a bit of a Sydney Swans supporter in my day because I live in Sydney, and before that, Carlton. Lost my way a little bit with that, to be honest. Still a great sport. It's well backed in Australia. I'm still a rugby league man with my Sasson Rabbitohs, and ultimately cricket is there, what is now all year round. There's not much time to say that when there's no cricket, that's for sure. Now, I wonder if David Graven is coming. He did say to come late. So many. I look at pictures of Andrew Simons and I can't believe he's not there. As I can't believe Shane Warne's not there. Neil Harvey, he's well into his 90s now, 93. He's still kicking. Not as good health as he used to be. He didn't turn up to Alan Davison's funeral. I'm assuming that was health related. What about the South Australian? Cricket's always number one. Yeah, I would agree with that. What about South African squad? The South African or South Australia squad? South African squad. Well, look at all the players that we don't know much about. We're learning about. Some of them are very good players. Some of them are probably not as good. Van der Hoosten seems to be floating around the short form format, but not really excelling. But they're ranked very highly. which is interesting. I've had a long day. Mother went back in hospital, unfortunately. She's back there again. Never much fun when your mother goes back in the hospital, that's for sure. Very sad. What was Turkish teas being had? You've got the Barrett Army are floating away. They're obviously going to talk about Mumbai Indians versus Sunrise. I don't know why. Mystic Ranger, that's a person I haven't heard from yet. No, long time no see. We're here now. What about Rabada or Stark? Rabada. I think I really like him. Mystic Ranger, how long has it been? A long time. Where have you been, Mystic Ranger? Tell me what your story is. You were quite prominent early on the channel. What's your story? Where have you been? Have you been hiding, or is it something less deliberate than that? Oh, my story. Not too big a stomach these days, guys. All right, so we've got to establish some way of actually checking on where we're at with English cricket. Again, I keep repeating this. Chris Silver was moved on to the Sri Lankan men's cricket scene, and I think he's a part of the Bangladesh tour, but I may be mistaken, and I need to confirm that. Am I a cricket journalist? You could argue I am. Yep, I'll call. Yep. What does the term journalist actually mean? Do you have to have written for a newspaper to be called a journalist, or could you be a journalist by way of the spoken format or the commentary format? Are they journalists? A journalist. What is the definition of a journalist? Is a question that I've always wanted to ask. Let's define the word journalist and see what it actually means. Because the journal, to write a journal as a journalist, you can be a journalist without writing a journal. Journalist is an individual that collects, gathers information in the form of a text, audio, or pictures. So, okay, a journalist could be in pictures or audio, processes them to a newsworthy form and disseminates it to the public. The act or process mainly done by the journalist is called journalism. Journalist. Interesting. So, a journalist is an individual. Why South Africa not giving a chance to do old Bravest? He's still a bit young. No, he's not ready yet. A journalist is an individual that collects, gathers information in the form of text, audio, or pictures, which I'm guessing would also be video or YouTube, things like that. Processes them to a newsworthy form and disseminates it to the public. There you go. What does a journalist do? Journalists research, write, edit, proofread, and file news stories, features, and articles. That's right. Their pieces are used on television and radio or within magazines, journals, and newspapers, in print or online. Most jobs require a qualification accredited by the National Council of Training of Journalists, NCTJ. All right. What are the 4 types of journalists? Investigative, news, reviews, columns, and feature writing. There you go. That's interesting. Jofra, Archer, or Bumrah. Well, Archer's injured, so I'm going to go Bumrah. But Archer is best. Who then knows? So in India, journalism seems to be a prestigious career choice. There you go. I think this T20 World Cup is for Australia. if they're not picking Finch. So if they don't pick Finch, Australia will win the World Cup 220. Okay. Get off Finch's back. He's still the captain and has won the World Cup. Deserves first crack at that next year. What careers you may want to consider career in journalist. A journalist investigator, we know. Okay. Is journalism a high paying job? The average salary of a journalist is it ranges from it doesn't look very exciting. Journalism's a lot, I think. Who is the best bowler in the world? Ashwin Karthik is asking. At the moment, you're talking about at the moment in all test squads. Who would I have in my team? Bumrah would be right up there, for sure. Pat Cummins, I guess. Ashwin certainly should be as well. I would say Rabada is also very good. But Cummins, yes, would have to be one. Matthew Wade's 80 over. Cummins, I'd say. Anderson would have to be up there because of his record. Who else I said before? Rabada, I didn't want to say. New Zealand's got a lot of good bowlers too. Ashwin would have to be up there. Record-wise, he certainly is. Who else did I say? Cummins, Anderson. I must have some of the bowlers. Charlotte, England's. Okay. New Zealand. No. West Indies. No. South Africa. Well, we've got a few. India with Ashwin. Pakistan. I think there's pretty much three that I would pick. Who else would I say? Maxwell, Andre Russell. Maxwell. Oh, no, I'd say Maxwell. What is it? Anderson? I had another name in front of me before Anderson, didn't I? I mean, Bumrah too. Who else were we going to say? Okay, let's go back to English cricket. Those that join us. Rob Key in place of Ashley Giles. Tom Harrison go. We don't know who's going to replace him. Silverwood goes. In comes McCullum. Also, Chris Silverwood goes to short form. In comes Matthew Mott potentially. Then you have Joe Root. Ben Stokes replaces him. Bubba versus Coley. Who do you pick? Bubba Azam at the moment. Well, Matthew Ayerton, he's going very well. Yeah. Jury's still out on him. I don't know whether I'd pick him. I'd pick. Hi, Buckle Data. How are you? Ahmed Braz's here. A few of us have come back. We've got Ashwin Karthik. Dusso N. What about Dusso? Is it Dusso or Dusso? Look, we're waiting on our guests to come back. They'll be here before too long. We'll Buckle Data, Michael, that's the name I remember. We had quite a few. Buckle Data come in. We had early Ashwin Karthik, of course. Himanshu Rahela. Sport, but I don't know you, but let's roll it. That was a classic before we had earlier on. Who was that? Marlon Johnny's always here. Who was it we had before? Do you think Nanda Kishore Kurupala? How are you? Let's talk. It's sad to see Virat not in form yet. It is sad. Hi, how are you? Do you think New Zealanders have got more of an insight out to down there? Yes. It's sad to see Virat not in good form. It is very sad. I'm still not happy with that. It's time that he gets Mystic Ranger. Mystic Ranger, that's a big name from the past. Very big name. Very big name. All right, guys, we're waiting on guests. I know it's been 45 minutes and I've been talking my head off them. Itchy, having put some afters over that makes me itchy. I was trying to work out, and we went through the term journalists. Everywhere I look at the moment, there's posts on Andrew Simons. Ashwin Kartik, a fan from Darwin. You weren't very far from where Andrew Simons passed away. Darwin being in the middle top in the north, then you go east, a bit further up, you're in Darwin. Not Darwin, sorry, Townsville. As per NAS, they got Stokes and McCullum to chart England's cricket to bowl and Brady direction. It's going to be amazing. Brandon McCullum is not eminent coach, Norman, so ECB must have hired Ricky Ponting. He would be the killer insect on team. Yeah. Manchester City or Liverpool? Oh, God. I'm going to say Liverpool, but I'm not really a fan of either of those teams, actually. West Ham's my team. Ashwin Kartik, why are you suddenly bring up Manchester? This tomorrow's discussion. We've got the banter corner going. They're the ones to talk about that sort of stuff with. They're the ones that are going to bring up that sort of discussion, aren't they? They bring them up. Oh, you go. I mean, they can bring up any time you want to bring. You can bring up any topic you choose. So they're asking me whether Tim David can get a chance in the Australian squad for 2020 World Cup. He really isn't in favour for some reason. They've got their anti him for some reason. Not very impressive. Can't make sense of it, actually. What is NRL, National Rugby League? It's like a hybrid between rugby and other sports. Rugby league is like an offshoot of rugby. I love it to death. It's my favourite winter sport, for sure. Are you following county cricket? Somewhat. It's interesting. I mean, obviously, Pujara certainly has impressed. Shrunken to going ahead at this point, it certainly is. There's no reason why it's not. Well, there is a lot of reasons why it's not, but it's not. It's on. Same thing was true a decade ago when they had a raft of South Africans within the England squad to take England to new heights. Trott, Strauss, Peterson, and Pryor. Yeah. Now it's New Zealanders. McCullum, Stokes. Are there any other New Zealanders there? Pujara or Miles? I say Pujara. I like Pujara much more of an intriguing batsman than me. I just still can't rate him. I'm sorry. For some reason, I'm very loath on rating him at all. Sad to say. Very, very sad to say. Ashwin, Carter, you're always asking me questions about these things, aren't you? I'm going to go look us in the fridge, guys, and see if there's. What do you reckon? What do you reckon? I should get something to eat. Waiting on these guys. We'll get some guests coming up. All right, there'll be guests here. All right, there'll be guests. There'll be guests. Let's get oh, there's been a particular amount of week. It's still good. Used by the 18th of May. What day is it now? Not. So is it? What is today's? What is today's date, class? Today's date. Where am I going? I had to go and eat. If I'm hungry, I'm hungry. A man's got to eat, you know. You can't sit here and talk to yourself. Well, talking to you guys, of course. What's the fit in? Why do you think New Zealand trouble Australia more than other teams in general? New Zealand don't normally. New Zealand, they play Australia at home, this is here, sorry, when New Zealand plays Australia in Australia's home, I'll tell you what, we rarely get beaten by them. Over there, it's a different story. I don't know, New Zealand cricket and Australian cricket, it's always been interesting. They play some very interesting matches when it comes to tournaments overseas. When it comes to playing here in Australia, generally, try to get the better of them. But I don't want to catch you tomorrow. See, Ashwin Hartik, I'm glad you're here. So Pat Cummins is a beast in Australian pitches. He is. But now he's proving himself in agents. He has bowled sumptuously against. Yeah, that's true. It's Pat Cummins doesn't seem to really get in the top gear in the IPL as much as he should. He played a very good game early on. With his batting was amazing. Bowling was not good. He played it well in the other game. The KKR, except for perhaps Andrew Russell, really, Strauss has not been impressive either. Disappointingly so, because he's a great player. Yeah, it's been a very disappointing season for Cotton Riders. Do you think Kartik should be part of the innocent? Yes. Danny not there, yes. Who do you think is that? Yeah, overrated cricketer. Is an overrated cricketer? There's quite a few. I would argue. I would have said Mitchell Marsh was an overrated cricketer, actually. But he seems to have got him act together. Miles Labuschagne. He's the player I'm thinking is overrated. That's going to shock most people. I think he's overrated. Okay, he has got some good scores. I don't deny that. But there's something about him that just doesn't sit well. And he's had some failures of late. I reckon might see more of a negative from him this time. Robert M. 1989. Good year. 89, I travelled all around Europe. Amazing, actually. Do you think you could get a current... yeah, I could do that. Certainly, I had Alan Mullally many time. Hugh Jackman is a big fan of cricket. Have you ever met him? Please answer. I haven't. I was very good friends with a guy that I know, but no, I never met him. Is someone I want to meet? Yeah. I met. Do you guys know New Zealand rugby? Who can tell me a New Zealand rugby player? I'm going to strap over here. Who can tell me? Anyone tell me a famous New Zealand rugby player who played rugby league? Canterbury, who has had some time with certain famous players, cricket player's wife. I met Samantha Strauss, and there was a massive difference between T20 and Test cricket. Pat Cummins is a splendid bowler. You're right. It was sad about English Simons was Robert M. I met him 6 years ago in Brisbane at a cricket clinic. Oh, really? Ashwin Kartik saying, Shaman Shastri saying hello. Dan Carter, yeah, he's selling Stacey Jones, you're right. What about SBW? Who's SBW? Who knows SBW? Who am I from? Yeah, Dan Carter. Well, who else is there? Tell me. I got this thing about butter. This mood of butter. Who is SBW? What initials do they stand for? Richie McCaw, rugby. Yeah, he certainly is another. I've met him. SBW, as in SPW Kiwi fight nights will be held at our training facility. What Kiwi? Okay. No, I'm not talking about that. SBW. Oh, I've just been joined by David Graydon. David Graydon has just joined us. We'll get to talk some serious discussion. David.
Long time no speak.
How are you?
I'm fine, actually. Not too bad.
You've got your visitors tag on there. Where have you been?
I've been to my daughter's school to talk about their future aspirations for girls and boys cricket. So,
oh, really?
I had been in a diary for a while. So,
fantastic.
So, anybody fancy running England cricket at present? Because there seem to be a few vacant positions.
Oh my God! Tom Harrison's just announced he's going to leave in June.
Yeah, they haven't got a chairman.
No. Who was the chairman? Who was the chairman?
There was a guy called Ian Watling who was involved with football. He didn't last very long. So yeah, interesting actually. But they had an interview panel, Norman, and then the candidate they eventually settled on was actually somebody on the interview panel themselves. So,
what?
But I don't think on reflection, he's decided not to accept it. So they haven't moved that one on either.
David, I have to ask the obvious question. Why aren't you considering a role here? Because, for God's sake, it seems like they've just about opened the door for someone like you to return.
Well, we'll see how it goes. I've got to check it.
Oh, hello. Are you letting out something here that you're
no, definitely not. Definitely not. The phone has not been ringing, Norman, so don't worry.
Well, I mean, there are some. I mean, okay. I was at a function last night with Brett Lee and Wako Yunus with Mike Coward.
I saw that. Saw the picture. I didn't play it long enough to hear what they had to say about it. I assume Andrew Simon's the one who dominated the conversation, tragically. But,
yeah.
Well, I've got something to reveal to you, Norman. That actually, he played for Gloucestershire for a while. He was the first county because our regulations allowed him to play because he was actually born in the UK. But I knew deep down that he didn't want to play for England. He wanted to play for Australia. So we intentionally, we did want him to accept, but deep down I knew he wouldn't. We selected him for England A, which he declined. And then
so hang on, Andrew Summers was selected for England A.
England A, which he declined. Wow. And the next day he was paraded by the ACB in Australian kit. So we sort of advanced the process.
So do you think there would have been any reality that he would have played? Or do you think there was any chance?
Oh, yeah. He was a fantastic player.
Oh no, I know that, but I mean, would he have wanted to? Say if he didn't get picked for Australia for another year or two, would he have turned around and played for England? Do you reckon?
And I hoped he wouldn't, because he wasn't doing anything illegal. The regulations allowed him to play because he hadn't dictated which country he wanted to play. So we forced his hand, which was always going to happen, either me or somebody else.
So let's go back to the question about England at the moment. I've never seen such an incredible clean slating of not, I shouldn't say a broom, that's not the right word, but you have Ashley Giles went, Rob Key's now in that position, correct?
Yeah.
You have Tom Harrison going, you don't really know who's going to take over his role. Chris Silver's gone to Sri Lankan cricket, and they've got obviously Brendan McCullum in that role. Did that shock you when you heard his name announced?
I thought it was very brave, I would have to say. I think that the combination of Rob Key, Ben Stokes, Brendan McCullum, are the one thing will happen is that the players will feel like $1 million because they are inspirational players, leaders. It then begs the question, and I'm not sure whether it's a relevant question, because I quote you Michael Atherton saying to me, if you've been selected for England, why do you need to be coached?
That's what Shane Warne always used to say too.
Yeah, you're good enough to play, so you probably need motivation. You probably need an arm around your shoulder, passing on playing experience. But if you get to that level, you don't need anybody to tell you how to hold a bat or how to hold the ball. Assuming that he gets the right people around him, I think it's been really well received here, Norman, by the media. So
that's great. I mean, the names are cropping up like Jason Roy and Alex Hales. Alex Hales, maybe he's not in favour of many other people in English cricket, as in the likes of Strauss or in Morgan. But could he return? Could he be given a green light? Maybe Brendan McCullum says, let's bring him back.
Well, I don't think they're short of options at the top of the order. So if you've got Butler, who's the most heavily valued player in the IPL, you've got Jason Roy, who keeps in and out of the ground. So the Alex Hale thing is a difficult thing to comment on, Norman, because obviously some things have happened, and he crossed the line to such a degree for people to read in between the lines. It doesn't matter what you do, you will never play again. Right. So the truth has never really come out, but I remember the belief I would just leave it like that.
Okay. All right. But this door will be open, though, because of Brendan McCullum's influence. There'll be, James Anderson and Stuart Broad look like they're going to return, at least for the summer.
We haven't got any bowlers left, Norman. They've all gone bust. So Ollie Stone injured. Saqib Mahmood is injured. Fisher's
really?
Injured. Yeah, and they're stress fractures for the whole season, the whole summer.
Jeez.
You got Mark Wood, who he has his day, but he spends most of his time falling. So he's never going to play every single game. So I don't think they've got. If they wanted to change, I don't think they can do it now because there aren't any obvious candidates knocking on the door. And actually, the pre-season, Norman, has been so dry that people are clocking up 500, 600, masses of runs. So there's no bowlers knocking on the door. So they've got to go back to Broad and Anderson. Got to go back. These guys have got fantastic records. And actually, of course. I think inadvertently it'll be an inspired decision because they will say that actually there's still fuel in the tank. They didn't say at the time when they were left out of white ball cricket, they were both quite upset. But they have to admit now that has elongated their careers by years.
Oh, gotcha.
So,
okay, the question of Graham Thorpe, and I hate to bring it up, but he's obviously come down with quite a serious illness, but we don't seem to be hearing what the illness is. Is there any reason for that, do you think?
Well, I would say that cricket is a pretty indiscreet sport, Norman, but this is a wall of silence around Graham Thorpe, so that sounds as if it's very serious. So I wish him well, but the game of cricket just, in the end, you're beginning to not switch on your phone because there'll be another sort of terrible thing of somebody passing away, or in addition to all the people that we know that have received the press coverage. Two guys that I've played with for Gloucestershire have both been diagnosed with terminal cancer, and they're younger than me. So yes, it's surreal, virtually, but I'm sure it happens in other walks of life. But
it's the way in which these people have passed away too. I mean, in the case of Shane Warne, nobody would have seen that coming. We don't really know what happened with Andrew Simons. He was in the car by himself.
That's very much a Ben Holyoke.
Oh yes,
thing, isn't it? Single person in the car. Well, no, he's with his girlfriend, I think. But Yeah, it's just so sad, really. But,
I feel for Adam because I'm sure he's reliving his brother's death, and when he
no, he
sees
would,
all this
and his father. His father is,
as well.
uh, he gets lots. They talk about anniversaries a lot and things like that. So, understandably, so it's just.
Yeah, I don't want to harp on the passing of the players, but it's something that certainly seems to be hitting home harder than ever. I've never seen such a monumental amount of grief in 1 year with cricket. It's just, and we only basically
Have they decided with Andrew Simons? Has any report come back from?
Well, it was a simple matter that his car rolled over on a road in Townsville, about 50 k's out of Townsville. No apparent reason. I hate to bring up the word drink driving, but there's a lot of that to be discussed because he was a drinker. We all know that. Reformed somewhat, but country road in Townsville, he could have been charged up.
I've been to Townsville for under-19 World Cup. In my recollection, it's a pretty flat area, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah. But anyway.
And that was on a road that was pretty innocuous. Even the way the car was damaged was rather innocuous. It didn't seem to. It did roll over, but yeah, it's a very shocking situation.
Yeah, very sad for his wife and his two children. So.
Oh yeah, and those around, he had incredible. I mean, he was very close to the Matthew Haydens of the world. And, yeah, I mean, it's quite sad. All right,
but all the Queensland, they seem to stick together as a pretty tight group. Queensland, don't they?
Oh, Queenslanders are the most state, loyal people I've ever met. I mean, New South Welshmen, Victorians, they have their moments, but Queenslanders, they're bound together with glue. They really don't stay very far from each other. They back each other up all the way. And Hayden and Simons were great friends. The other selection that's about to happen on looks like it's got some traction is Matthew Mott.
Yeah, he has been mentioned a lot as the white ball coach. I think to be fair, this is no disrespect to anybody who's been involved in the past, but I do think, Norman, if you're going to go the whole hog, go the whole hog, not just go halfway.
No.
And have something completely fresh. And he's
have you met Matthew Mott?
Yeah, no, he was coached briefly for Glamorgan.
Right.
And seemed a really nice guy. He's done a fantastic job with the women.
The Australian women's team is just unstoppable, really. And he must have had a large part to play. Let's be honest. So,
yeah. So I think that I think some of the other guys have had a good run and whatever. So, people don't mention the names like that, Norman, without any reason. So,
yeah. He's come out of the woodwork a little bit. There was no expectation of him to be in that mix, but yeah.
But Brendan mentioned a long way off before we actually got the thing because it is difficult to keep it a secret, I must admit.
But the application process, they have a very independent feel about it now. It's not old school at all. Well, it appears to be very clinical. They're very, high performance based philosophies. The interview itself, the hypotheticals. There's a lot more to it. It's quite a grueling process. What I'm gathering from what I'm hearing.
Well, the only one this is to do with captaincy, not coaches. But when Nasser Hussain was selected as captain, just Ian McLaren, who was chairman of the board, and me as chairman of selectors, we were the only two people who interviewed him and Mark Rampakash as the two candidates.
Right. And what was that process? Was it a sit-down interview, or did you do it over the phone?
Yeah. Sit down, came into Lord's. He sat at one end of the table, and Ian and I sat at the other end.
So is
But there was no script to it. There was no sort of HR saying you've got to ask them these sorts of questions and what's his views about certain things. Now, because of equality, diversion, inclusion, there's a greater influence, quite right, I suppose, of HR in the whole process. So
interesting. It is interesting. I mean, from a coaching perspective, I understand it because you're a man manager, a player manager. There's an element of that goes on that perhaps you need more of a psychology approach to the whole thing. But I don't know. To me, I would have thought, especially some players pick themselves, meaning that their credibility. I mean, like Ricky Ponting, to me, has done very well in a lot of roles he's taken on. Wouldn't he have featured in this? Is he not considered to be a possible selection? I mean, Langer's another one that comes up, but
I think the combination of how, particularly for Australians, how they sit in Australian folklore makes it, and also, you know, people don't want to spend months. I can understand why they want to split the two jobs, because it's just impossible for one person to do everything.
No, true.
So, yeah, I think it's just one step too many for Australians, unless they have been removed in circumstances that you know they're a bit angry and they want to prove the point. But even then, they still have to walk. You know, I was the first, and this is only domestic cricket, Norman.
Yeah.
But I was the only first person to move from Gloucestershire to Somerset. Yeah, that was pointed out to me for many years, I can assure you. So.
Okay, I'm going to mention like two names that I thought would have been in the mix for a number of selections, like even the Australian coaching role. Jason Gillespie and Trevor Bayliss. They seem to have they've been left out. And I mean, the grooming of Jason Gillespie for a national coaching role has been obvious to me. I don't know what's happened there.
Well, I can only go back to reasons where he I think was offered the England job actually, and he talked about his family, being away from his family for a long time, right. And that's what he said when he left Yorkshire, and then reappeared coaching Sussex. So something must have happened in the intervening time.
So are we able to find out who actually went for the job, the England job? Do we know? Is it publicly known who applied, who was interviewed, who was vetted, or is that just not something we'll never find out?
Just the normal suspects. I think all the names you mentioned probably. I think then there's a difference between inquiring, "Are you interested?" and actually having a formal interview. So some of the guys who've now been interviewed for the white ball game, two of them are known to me. If you believe what the papers say, which obviously is a dangerous occupation, but Richard Dawson, who did a fantastic job with England, or continues to do a fantastic job with England under 19s, has been involved with the senior team and also been well liked about how he goes about his business. Did a really good job with Gloucestershire on limited resources. So, yeah, it's that sort of choice rather than, I've got nothing against Collie, but, sometimes you've got to just freshen it up a bit, I think would be the right description.
Well, I know Simon Kaz went for the job, the England coaching role, because he told me. He was in the mix, he said, and he was, he had his fingers crossed. So he must have gone relatively close because he was.
Who's that?
Simon Kaz.
Yeah. Well, he's played in the UK. So, the actual people that he would have seen them. But, they made the decision. I think it's actually bold and very un-English. So let's see how it goes.
Yeah, how do you feel generally? Are you in a happy mode when you look at what's happening, or are you frustrated? What's your thoughts on what's happening? To me, is it too much change? Is there an element of a broom?
No, I don't think there's too much change. To be fair, look at history, Norman. Every time we get hammered by Australia, all the toys go out of the pram. So there is change. I think the world has faced some just unique problems that hopefully we never have to face again. The players have really struggled to deal with the bubble surroundings, so hopefully that's now being released a little bit. But even the England World Cup in the West Indies under 19s, everybody stayed in the same hotel. They were very limited about what they could do.
Yeah.
So it's still that environment. And I think there is. They've had some issues. English cricket have had some issues. First of all, the introduction of the 100-ball game and how that was received or not received, as the case may be. Then there's a question of then Black Lives Matters, the Azam Rafiq thing, and whatever happened to Yorkshire. There were the wrong headlines around cricket, and then internally, it was revealed that those involved with introducing the 100-ball game, that they were about to collect quite a considerable bonus for doing it, on the same time as 65 people have been made redundant, of which I was one of them. So that doesn't necessarily sit well with you when that happens. So.
No. Okay. In terms of the appointment of Brendan McCullum's been well received, you're saying, and Ben Stokes, that combination, that may well work. They might be very,
Well, one thing's for sure, Norman, they won't die wondering.
No, that's for sure. That's for sure.
It could make some really entertaining cricket, and I think, and the only person who knows Ben Stokes' knee is Ben Stokes, and again, going back to my time of working with Mike Atherton, which was fantastic. He had a long-standing back complaint, and he said it was easier to manage when he was captain because he knew what he could do and what he couldn't do, as opposed to when he wasn't captain, where he had to declare, how fit he was, and invariably he wasn't fit. So it's no wonder his career came to a pretty rapid end.
Okay, what do you reckon? I mean, I know the New Zealand series is not far away, is it? England versus New Zealand. Are we going to see a Dawood Milan or a Zach Crawley, or I'm hearing names like Tom Haynes and Keaton Jennings? Jennings is also there, isn't he?
They're sorting out the top order is going to be difficult, because if you start from the bottom up, all right, so you've got 4 bowlers to select. You've got to have 4 bowlers, because Stokes can't be one of 4. So if he is batting, if Stokes is batting 7, or a wicketkeeper's batting 7, you've then got a spot at 6. Then you've got Stokes and Roots to fit in. Then the opening batsman will be a bit of a challenge. I think they're implying that Zach Crawley are back 3. What do you do with Bairstow?
Well, he has to be considered.
So he's 6. So all you're looking at is the two opening batsmen. So,
but that's extremely significant positions in the batting lineup, especially for England, especially in Test cricket, and even more so at home. Who are they going to pick? I mean, have they absolutely squashed some of the players that we've seen? That, I mean, they've had a number of combinations there of late. I just don't know. I think that's the Achilles heel of English cricket. They can't get their opening 3 worked out.
Well, one of the guys should be mentioned but won't play is a guy called Harry Brook at Yorkshire, who's a fantastic player. He's an ex-England under-19 captain, and just gets runs for fun at present. But you wouldn't open with him, and you wouldn't certainly bat him at 3 either. So,
should Joe Root turn to number 3 on the orders now that he's not captain?
Yeah, well, it'd be I think it will be a conversation, with Brendan. Brendan doesn't want to go in and break up all the furniture and whatever. He'd be a forthright guy, so some of what he's expecting from him.
Well, I mean, the Kolkata Knight Riders he's in charge of now, admittedly, the short format of the game, it hasn't done that well there, to be honest with you.
And they've had some serious teams as well.
Yeah. Okay. Another question.
He's got no coaching experience at all.
No.
So it's, but I can understand the logic of selecting somebody who is so positive in everything he does. So yeah, I can understand that bit.
Oh, look, it could well work, but I would have just thought Brendan McCullum was at low numbers there, certainly for the short format, as he seemed to excel there as well. And that's what
I was surprised about, that he chose the red ball rather than the white ball. Maybe he thinks that reviving a Red Bull team that really is on its knees is much more of a rewarding project than being involved with a white ball team that does actually win more than it loses most of the time. So
yeah, and Owen Morgan, he was a part of KKR under Brendan McCallum, and I think there may have been some issues there.
is that? But he didn't play that. He didn't play that often, did he?
No, I don't know what happened last year, but I believe there may have been a fallout between those two, right, at least under the KKR banner, which is intriguing. Could that have been an issue of him being the short ball format? It's
pretty clear that he relished the challenge of the Red Bull. Right. That might be a step too far, but I suppose you could say, Norman, the only way is up. But they're going to have some interesting challenges. New Zealand, one-off test against India, and then South Africa. So, and all South Africa seem to be getting their act together. The coach has now been cleared, which is thankful. India have got some decisions to make.
Oh God,
yeah. We've been on this thing of talking about, and I'm not trying to be wise after the event, but I've said to you that Kohli just needs a break. He just was running on empty, and still is. But the amount of talent that India are producing through the IPL is staggering. Absolutely staggering.
Oh yeah, it's a great tournament. It really is. In terms of it, it's a breeding ground of great players. Now with India, Pujara is playing out of his skin there in England. I'm hearing and seeing evidence of.
Yeah, he is. Good. Well, nice wicket to play on, Norman Hove, but the wickets have been very flat for an April, May in England. We haven't seen any rain. So.
And what's happening there? We're getting plenty of rain here.
No. So this is what normally happens. Yeah, when it's dry, it can be a bit cold, but the wickets are flat. So I think we're now revealing the fact that actually the skill factor of bowlers needs to improve. They need to be like Australian bowlers, because the wickets don't do anything in Australia to a degree. The ball they use does a little bit for a while, and you've got to improve your method of and your variety of delivery, rather than just in England bowling with a juke ball and just getting it down there, and the ball will do something. So
now Robert M 1989 is saying that Lynn's in England. Are we talking about Crystal in there? Is he playing?
Yeah, he's I don't know who signed him. I think it might be Derby. I'm not sure, but he's definitely signed a contract. Yeah.
I mean, look, I know Chris very well. I've known him since he was a kid. He went on a few tours with me to Sri Lanka, of all places, and misspent. I mean, he's short form for me. He was very good, yes, but he had a test ability too, but they never got a chance to use it.
Well, the conversion from white ball to red ball can be very difficult, as Josh Butler found out. You look at the way he plays now, Norman, in the IPL. Well, and we can put a clip of him playing Test match cricket. You'd think they're two different people, basically.
It's bizarre, isn't it? It really is bizarre. Because, okay, the wickets and bowling is somewhat more mundane in IPL than it is in Test cricket.
I wouldn't say it is mundane. I think some of it. Who's the guy who's bowled the quickest delivery?
Umar Malik. Yeah.
Jesus Christ. Now, I know he's not always on the money, but he bowls some serious balls.
He's got a name that's very, very Pakistani, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Robert M is saying North Hampshire is where.
Yeah, that's right. He is correct. Well done, Robert.
Now, all right. What else is there to talk about regarding England? Look,
I think the bottom line for me, Norman, if you put me on the spot, I think they're really bold decisions. I'll be interested to know who are the skills coaches who might be in support. Again, you don't need millions of them. The one thing that really hacks me off really is that team pitches where there's more backup staff than there are players.
Oh, I hate that. I hate that with a passion.
There's rows and rows of people.
Because we've also picked up Daniel Vittoria as an assistant coach for Australia, which is another rather strange. I would argue rather strange. Not that I'm saying Danny Vittori is not good, but a little bit strange.
Yeah. Well, that is strange is McDonald and him, have they been in the same team together at any stage?
I can't recall whether they have or not, but they must have a good rapport.
And how is McDonald received in terms of an
Well,
appointment?
he's so under the radar. People aren't saying much. All we hear is that he's very good with the players. He's got a great rapport with the short format games, such as Aaron Finch and the Maxwells. He's very tight with them, hence the winning of the World Cup last year, which is almost put straight down to Andrew McDonald, not Justin Langer. Justin Langer was told to back off, go to the back of the room and sit there and watch. And Andrew McDonald took over, to be honest with you. He was...
In a limited period of time he worked in England for Leicester, he transformed the club.
Right.
So he's a very impressive guy. I had a chat to him about academies, and he could easily have dismissed that as being irrelevant or whatever. And he was very understanding, listened, contributed. So I thought it was very impressive, everything he did.
No, when I say he's gone under the radar, people didn't say good or bad about him, other than the players themselves. They all raved about him, and was a calming influence, and certainly led them into a lot of their victories, which happened over the summer, even though Justin Langer was at the helm. Had he not been there, we would have seen a very different Australian side playing in the short and long formats, I can assure you, at least in terms of mental preparation, because Langer was far too gung-ho and he was on the nose with a lot of people, as you would imagine. But again, he can be I've mentioned Justin Langer, he seems like a very amicable guy, but he does get a bit stroppy with the old coaching role. I saw him getting on the bus at the SCG one day, and he
fiery eyes, Norman, hasn't he? So
when he gives you that look, I tell you, I was doing some media work for an Indian journal company, and he saw me and he stopped his tracks. He knows me, and he was like, "Who are you videoing?" He gave me a death stare. It was quite scary, actually. He was not in a good mood.
Yeah. Well, he cares. It's a hard. That's the thing with Tom Harrison. He's been used as a punch bag for the media for the last few years since COVID started. Well, and then the 100-ball game, we're introducing that before that. So, he's got a family, and he's comes to, enough is enough by beating up by the. And often it's not the media. Sorry, it's not the cricket aspect. I think with Joe Root in particular, he just got so exhausted of having to be wheeled out in front of the media and explain another England defeat. There comes a time when enough's enough.
7 years is a pretty good hit out anyway. It's not to sneeze at. Back to England, the selection process. Jofra Archer, what's the story with him now? He's back up and running, isn't
he? He is, yeah. But I've been on this phoning with you, Norman, and not to be pessimistic. When I was talking about Kane Williamson, I think elbow injuries are really serious stuff. So I hope he makes a speedy recovery, but we'll see when he gets out bowling. And the time will tell in his second spell, Norman, how he feels then. And it'll be interesting to see even how Kane goes as a batsman. Because it's got to impact on your grip and things like that. And this is only really in conversation with Graham Swan. They sent him to America to be operated on by those surgeons or consultants who deal with baseball pitchers. So those are seriously valuable assets. So he had the very best available and still didn't resolve the problem.
Okay, can you explain to me the role of Andrew Strauss? He's a consultant now. What does that mean? What exactly is that?
Well, I don't think he wanted to be a full-time employee again, because I think he's got other work that he does about his life, and sadly, his life experiences over the last 4 or 5 years, I've lost his wife, And he's a very powerful talker. He was a successful captain. So yeah, I think he still wanted to retain the ability to decide what he wanted to do. I think so.
But he has a bigger influence. Sorry, as big an influence as he has in the past when he was in those roles. He seems to still be the one they go to get final.
Yeah. Well, he's chairman. He's chairman of the ECB Cricket Committee. I don't know whether you have the same model in Australia. So this is bringing together all facets of the game, much more of a strategic lead than picking 11 blokes to play for England. So, and he's quite happy doing that. So yeah, he's and at current time, because they've got no chief executive, no chairman, he's definitely valuable.
So there was a lot of comment that Strauss was happy to see Anderson and Broad go. He was quite adamant about their time being up, and it was sensed when Strauss took the role in the interim format before Rob Kerr and the like came on deck, wasn't there? Well, at least there was talk in Australia about that. Anderson
I don't think it's as strong as that, but you've still got to make some preparation for the future. You know,
I understand
it's
that.
been in the hands of two players for a long time who've done fantastically well, and if you're trying to manage them a little bit better, then sometimes you've got to have a rest. And I think it was difficult for the management in Australia to be able to pick both of them together.
Yeah, but what I'm getting at is it did appear that the moment Strauss came in, it was the moment those two were then not in the team. Wasn't
that might be 2 plus 2 equals 5, Norman, I think, because of their age things and rumours saying that they were difficult to deal with in the dressing room, which can happen with senior players. But I'd more hang on to the fact that we needed to look at others, and the West Indies seemed to be a good place to do that. And in the end, it wasn't the seam bowling that lost the game; it was the batting that lost it. So
true, but we're going to see. There's no doubt we're going to see Anderson Broad return to the squad.
Yeah. So when you're looking at the top order, do you say start with Lees because he didn't do too bad when he was there, and Crawley because everybody Crawley, and then Joe Root at 3. That merely creates a place a bit farther down for a young batter because there's a few of them knocking on the door, and Harry Brook would be, in my estimation, up there as one of the main people to do it.
Right. Okay. So yeah, but they're gonna keep to a Bairstow, I think, as well for the interim because he's still playing well.
Oh yeah, no, well you can't drop him. He gets hundreds. Yeah, he sometimes unfairly always seems to be the first name on the sheet when you're thinking about making changes, which I think is somewhat unfair to him actually. But
for sure. So Ben Folkes, you're saying will be the keeper.
Yeah, but he had a difficult time in the West Indies. Leading up to it, again, the Nasser saying quote, sometimes you're a better player out of the team than you are in it. So he might have been a bit disappointed by his output. But they had a really tough time in the West Indies. They were, not for the first time, were ambushed by a side that appeared to be more committed than England. I'm sure that's not the case, but that's how it looked. And that last collapse in that last Test match was just a horror story, basically.
Oh, look, they're bound to have a better, as you say, from the onwards and upwards for them. They've got a fresh start.
And that's why when the Matthew Mott thing, I think this is the time to say, right, we've tried all the other sort of English coaches or whatever. Let's go for a bit of a spell of overseas, different voices, different coaching methods. Matthew Mott at least has the credentials to do it.
Well, again, women's success has been amazing.
Yeah, but even then, they played a couple of close games, the Aussies. in that World Cup. So that was actually fantastic entertainment. That so.
Oh,
Have you
look,
been
the
watching the
women's
IPL?
games. Sorry,
Have you been watching the IPL?
of course. To me, the IPL is too long. It's 70 games before you get to the semis. We're heading towards the end of it. Obviously, the new teams, Gujarat and Lucknow, both come through quite nicely. Josh Butler's influence over Rajasthan has been very clear. Admittedly, Hardik Pandya is falling out of favour with Test and ODI cricket for his country, but seems to have regained favour with his new team. And now it looks like Delhi Capitals have snuck into the 4 ahead of RCB, who just can never get their act together, despite having yet again another very strong squad.
But they used to have stronger squads than they have now, haven't they? Because they used to have Villiers and Coley playing. So,
but I mean, the IPL's here to stay. The money that's generated from the players drawn to it, it's never going to go anywhere.
No. It's always going to stay. So
it's very tiring to. I mean, I'm generally every night watching and commentating, or at least giving some report on it. It's a bit long in the tooth. I know it's the time differences, but
what time is it shown with you, Norman?
Oh, midnight is when it starts.
Oh, blimey.
And that's the first game. It usually goes well past 4 in the morning, so you just can't, keep that up.
No, it's every single
every night.
Yeah, every night. So.
It is literally every night. They should play more double headers. I know it doesn't necessarily suit their TV.
Well, they should have done it. They should have done it when they're all in roughly the same place, like Mumbai. Yeah. And I think I really liked the way that the wickets have changed as the competition has gone on. Because that Brabourne, that was a flat wicket start.
Oh, God, yeah. Oh, my God. That is, I have played a game of cricket on that about 4 or 5 years ago, and it was
fantastic ground, isn't it?
Love the atmosphere. I love the atmosphere.
A colonial throwback, that. So.
Oh, I love the place. It really is. It is the true legendary ground of the country, I think.
No, it is. Well, the Ranji Trophy sits right there in that room, doesn't it?
Exactly. And having the hotel as a part of the ground.
Also separated on floors, depending on where you come from. But
exactly.
The person, I think I've probably told you this stat, the person who scored more runs as a non-Indian on that ground, his surname is Graveney, but it's not me. So.
Oh, but it's a romantic ground, I call it. I think it's got this feeling about it. Wankhede is fairly daunting, but it's not that same mark. Eden Gardens is fantastic. I love Eden Gardens. It's a wonderful ground, that is.
Yeah, I've never been there, but I quite like what's the one up north?
The one near Dharmashala.
No, not Dharmashala. Where they play test matches.
Mohali?
Yeah, Mohali.
Yeah.
Because that was built by a guy, I assume, is no longer with us, who was suffering from cancer from the last time I was there. But it was, he orchestrated that. And it was the first time I witnessed the impact of Tendulkar. That we were playing India. It was when Alex Stewart didn't want to travel, Robert Croft didn't want to travel. So actually Richard Dawson went, and actually James Foster went as a wicketkeeper.
Right.
We got bowled out as normal. Got a couple of wickets, but India were definitely in control because Tendulkar was about 20 not out. And then we came back the following morning. And needless to say, we lost the game. But what happened in the first hour was that Tendulkar got stuck in, struck a couple of boundaries, and then we got him out. And then the crowd left. Literally, the crowd got up and left. And I thought, well, this guy is a god then.
That must have been an incredible sight to see a play. I mean, Viv has the same effect. When Viv's not playing, they generally leave as well. When they stay. Amazing. All right, so in your summation, we've got Ben Stokes at the helm of the team with the likes of Brendan McCullum floating around as coach. You've got a different administration. I think the best selection out of all of them is Rob Key. I believe that will make the most change out of that whole
Well,
group.
one thing he will, at the present stage, just tell it as it is, not with any fluffy corporate terminology. I think Brendan McCullum will do that in the dressing room, as will Ben Stokes as a player. So I think they are bold, and I wish them well, because I think it could be spectacular. But as I said at the beginning, I don't think they won't die wondering. That's for certainty. They'll be all out attack.
Hopefully you get the right players in amongst them, and they get some young blood there that becomes.
Yeah, Ben Stokes had some, I think, misunderstood media coverage. Whenever he's got himself in trouble, it tends to be helping others, which was the case with Alec Hales in Bristol. But even when he smashed that 160 and hit a guy called Josh Haynes, who's a left-arm spinner for Worcester, for 34 and an over, he was the first one who texted the young kid just to ask how he was. So
right.
He's got many good qualities, Ben Stokes.
It could reach legendary status, actually, because his test run aggregates are phenomenal, aren't they? Really, he's over 5,000.
Yeah, I just hope that he gets some sort of success, which tends to happen with new captains. They tend to get some success early doors, because the one thing that will hack him off completely is to be under the media scrutiny, not off the field, on the field, and keep asking the same questions over and over again. Why didn't you select Joe Soap, or why didn't you select him? So that's.
This is the common question I'm hearing many times.
Yeah.
As we discussed, why didn't he get the short format job? Why is it? I know that he may have wanted the long format more. I can see that, but it's interesting how everyone's associating.
Well, the only thing I can explain that for is that the longer format tends to be a longer job, because you're here in the summer and in the winter, and
better pay.
I'm not sure how many candidates they had for the Red Ball game. I'm hearing a lot more names in line for the White Ball game because it's a successful team than the Red Ball.
Right. Well, I can assure you, Kaddish was there with McCullum, and I did hear as well. Well, Bales was approached. He has been approached to come back, but
you can never go back. That's for certainty.
Well, you can if you're Prime Minister of Sri Lanka. You certainly can. If they got Ranel's in there again for his 6th run.
I see. So
it's been brought back in for the 6th time, not in a row, but usually after the calamity of a Rajapaksa. It's hilarious.
This is to avoid the army coming back, is it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, Ranil, who's been in power before, he is deemed to be an opposition to the leaders, yes, but he also goes to bed with them, so to speak. And I think the Rajapaksa family would be pulling his little puppet strings, even though it's a bit like a Putin example where he was president one minute, prime minister the next, and then he got back in as the.
That sounds a bit like the Ranatunga family in cricket in Sri Lanka.
Oh God, Arjuna! I mean, his brother Prasanna is one of the ministers in the previous government. His house was burnt down.
Oh.
Burnt. I mean, a number of the leaders had their houses burnt down to absolute cinder. Even so-called historical family residences elsewhere have been burnt down. They're quite damning at the moment. And Arjuna, I know Arjuna really well, and generally he's an honourable guy, but he's playing the political game too much at the moment.
No, he plays the political game. They're all that him. Well, that's another cycle, isn't it? Him or Aravinda, who's actually pulling the strings. Wasn't Arjuna's brother CEO of Sri Lankan cricket as well?
Nishantha, of course he was.
Yeah.
Well, see, I think I may have told you, my ex-wife was great friends with Arjuna when he was a teenager. and got to know the Rantunga family very closely, and their parents was connected. And then in the end, I got to know all of the brothers very, very well. And when I go to Sri Lanka, I see the brothers individually: Sanjeeva, Prasanna, Nishantha, Arjuna, and Rohan is another brother. I've seen them all, but separately. It's quite incredible. They're still pretty close. The mother's a real matriarch. Oh my God. Father's passed away. He was the governor of his central province there at one stage. Big bushy white mustachioed like a gypsy look. He was quite incredible. They're great people, but Prasanna's definitely other side of the political scale. His brother Arjuna, would you believe, which is intriguing. So Prasanna was under the Rajapaksa regime, and Arjuna was dead against Rajapaksa. So it's intriguing to see that happen.
So when you get to the playoff stage in the IPL, just send me the links, Norman, and I'll join in then if that's all right.
Please do. I love you to that. They're coming up, well, within a week or so now. I think less than a week, actually.
So,
but good.
And if there's any movement on ECB staff in the intervening time, we'll have a chat then, if that's all right.
Oh, for sure. But isn't it just been relentless, David? It's like, I thought I had enough information to talk, but then suddenly Tom Harrison pops up in the feed only minutes ago. When did you first find out Tom? Did you find out just a short while ago?
I found out as I was getting out of the car to go to this meeting at my daughter's school.
Yeah.
That's not a surprise, really. So it was not a matter of if, it would be when.
Right. And of course,
I would have to say what I've learned in sport, that is what it always is. It's not a matter if, it's when. I was trying to work out why I got the sack all the time. But if you stick around too long, you will get the sack.
Of course. And the MCC, that's another incredible move, isn't it? Such a non-cricketing vibe to the leadership there. It's interesting. What's his name again? I've forgotten his name. I've got a momentary blank.
Stephen Fry.
Oh, he's a cricket tragic. He's a cricket tragic.
Very funny man. We went to a dinner, lunch. Luncheon at the Oval in a test match was a spectacular spread. And the two Bedson brothers used to be there, quite rightly, because they're icons of Surrey. But they used to be always first in the queue for the food. So they were there, and it happened that Julie and I were the next two, and we all sat at the same table, then joined by Stephen Fry.
Right.
There's always been a bit of an issue about the Bedsons, about their sexuality. I don't have a problem about that, but Stephen Fry started off, right, chaps, pleasure to sit with you. I'd just like to know your views about public school life, of boy beating boy and other things that happen. They virtually nearly spat the food out.
Just a quick point. We had recently an Eid Mubarak, a Pakistani celebration at Lord's, which was incredibly successful. Then within a couple of days, Kamal Khan, who's a very close friend of mine, organised the event that happened last night. It went over like a bomb. It was magnificent. The accolades given, it was just a magnificent night. Really was. I really enjoyed it.
This is what, for the Asian population or Muslim population?
Yes, Muslim, well, for the Pakistani Muslim population, yes. Yeah. We had Nick Hockley there. We had a number of the Todd Greenberg, of our heads were there. We had cricketing led, like Stu McGill was there, he's a good mate of mine too. They're all there. It was a really good night. I mean, Waka Yunus, Brett Lee, very great. And we had Sonny Bill Williams there as well.
Oh, right.
That was I was in awe of him. We had a chat. He was an amazingly nice bloke, very nice bloke, massive bloke. Oh God, great night.
He's done both codes, hasn't
he? Yeah, we get it. I should have. If you were in Australia, I would have got you to come to this event. The food was absolutely magnificent. Really, it was a spectacular.
The best hotel I've ever stayed in, only because it was completely different, Norman, was the Pearl Continental in Lahore.
Right.
I know that was a hotel that the staff originated from, going to the ground and then got ambushed. But as a hotel, it was just fantastic. Just the people involved, the size of the hotel, service, and everything like that. So No, and because it's different, and I was side by side with the ground that Majid Khan grew up playing, his club team, and he's just an icon of of my life, really. So
now they've got a certain level of sophistication, the Pakistanis. I really enjoy their company. I mean, even to hear Shoaib Akhtar talk, he's got eloquence about him. He's quite a good talker.
He's good. Because Gloucestershire have just signed. Unfortunately, he broke down pretty early on in the piece. Was Nazim Shah?
Yeah,
guy who was 19. He speaks absolutely perfect English, and I'm not saying that. Why is that surprise? But
no.
I grew up with Zahir Abbas and Sadiq Mohammed, and I would say their English was okay, but that would be just about okay. Nazim was like absolutely fluent, in everything he did, and he can bowl fast. He can. So he bowled some spells against Australia that made them leap around a bit.
It certainly did. No, it's great, and I'm glad we're back playing in Pakistan. That was great, and I'm pity I couldn't go. But my mother's still not well. My mother's gone back to hospital again today. By the way, she's losing a lot more going on. It's quite sad. She's deteriorating pretty fast now. Anyway,
well, I'm sorry about that, Norman.
Thanks, David.
More important than cricket, and that's why.
Yeah, it's just one of those things that you got to go through, I guess, in life.
But it is the real world we're living in. I'm still trying to get over Rod Marsh, so there's a lot of other things that have happened.
Well, you were close to him. Yeah. You were very close to him, weren't you? But David, who aren't you close to? I mean, everybody knows you, and they speak very fondly about you. You're well loved by everybody. You're a great ambassador. You're a great administrator. You're a great friend to many people, and a very good mentor at the same time. Is not anyone. Sorry,
Rod was just those people that you meet in your life, and you would have met some Norman and having known all the Australians that were. He was just, he taught me so much about me in a short period that we worked together. It was just incredible as a bloke. Because he was a rough diamond, wasn't he, when he played for Australia?
Oh, gotcha. Oh, yeah. He certainly was. I mean, that was. You got your Gary Gilmores, your Doug Walters, your Rod Marshes. They were a certain ilk, weren't they? I mean, it was a great time for Australian cricket.
I love them. Yeah, anyway. They were good. So, Norman, I'll leave it there.
Thank you, David. I appreciate you spending some time. It's been a great set of topics. We had lots to talk about. Oh my God, how many changes can one country make?
It's like a shopping list, virtually.
It is. It's crazy. Crazy.
That is the original revolving door. That is.
Oh my God! But that has to be the punctuation point. That has to be the last change. There's no one else to change.
There is no one. There's no one else to change at all.
You've changed everybody.
And there'll be a few changes behind the scenes. In terms of specialist coach. It'd just be interesting what Brendan wants. This country often is accused of being pretty conservative about change. And I think the combination of those three could be an inspired choice for cricket in this country.
Oh, absolutely.
Because they could play in a manner that excites the young generation in this country.
I totally agree. I just hope some of the young players come through under this banner and show their wares. That's what I'm hoping.
But there are some young players performing at the present stage who've done really well. So, but I would say Harry Brook is up there as a
Harry Brook. I remember that name.
Test match player, and he's batted the other end of Joe Root. So he's got somebody who's seen him. So
good combination. All right, thanks, David.
Hope it goes okay.
Thank you, David. I really appreciate it. Right. Now, look. How fortunate is that to have David Graveney here today to talk about the in-depth discussion about England? We know full well the complete clean-out CEOs, managing directors, coaches, coaching staff, playing as in captains, both in short and long form. Quite incredible detail. I've really enjoyed the session tonight. I hope you get to see this video, guys, because you missed out on something if you haven't seen it already. It is superb. It is great to see. If Brendan's a coach, they can't wait first ball Ashes 2023. That's going to be interesting in England too. Pick one, Sachin Tendulkar or Brian Lara. Well, Oh, how do you pick between those two? I'd probably go St Augustine. So, who are the favourites for the test between England and England this July? What will be the conditions? Well, I mean, Indian team will probably be a conservative one. They might bring Bajara back. England will be very shaken up. Yeah, that's right. They're the front row. In fact, I think he's got the job. They wouldn't be mentioning us if he wasn't. All right, guys, we're going to finish it there. Thank you for your time. Tomorrow we've got the banter corner on with the guests we normally have, and come and enjoy that. All the best, guys. Have a good night. See you later.